My boyfriend broke up with me because I got drunk and twerked at his brother's wedding. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Now, this is the part that I don't get. My boyfriend and I met while we were partying. It's mainly one of the reasons why we connected. He took me bar hopping on our first date, then we ended up at a club. When I say dancing, we would dance 3 to 4 hours and only stop to get more drinks. He knew what I was like. Now, around his family, he acts like an angel. You don't even know that he drinks. Now, his parents are really wealthy and they are very prudish. I understand that he wants to hide that side of himself. One of his biggest fears is that if his parents find out, they will probably take him out of their will. Now, I was really excited for his brother's wedding. I spent $1,000 on a mirror palette dress, got a spray tan, lashes, nails, and when we show up to the wedding, he said, "We can both have 2 drinks, but that's it." Can you guess what happens next? Day part 2 is up. Go. My boyfriend broke up with me after I got drunk and twerked at his brother's wedding. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. When he told me that I could only have 2 drinks at the wedding, I agreed. But I kept noticing that he was going to the bar. He said he was just thirsty, but I could clearly see that the bartender was handing him shots. So I went to the opposite bar across the room and I started taking shots. I took 3 shots to be exact. After the 3rd shot, I definitely felt it and I knew I could not take any more. But what happens to me when I have a couple of drinks is that I'm already happy, I'm relaxed. And when I hear music, I just love to dance. The DJ puts on some Osuna, if you know, you know, and I just couldn't help myself. Grabbed my boyfriend, we went to the dance floor, and I just started twerking. Trust me, it was very tame for what I usually do on the dance floor. Let's say I usually twerk at a 10. This was like level 3. That's when he grabbed my arm really hard, twisted me around, and told me that I needed to go to the bathroom. Once we were alone, he grabbed my face really hard, he smelt my breath, and told me to leave. He straight up kicked me out of the wedding. And it gets worse. Go to part 3. My boyfriend broke up with me after I got drunk at his brother's wedding and twerked. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. And he smelled my breath and realized that I'd had a couple of drinks. Without missing a beat, he kicks me out of the wedding. Not only did he tell me to leave, he physically shoved me out of the door. Thank God I had my purse on me. He stays inside while I'm standing right outside the door looking at him. He orders an Uber for me and sends me home. By the time I got home, I had a breakup text from him. He told me that I embarrassed him, that his family must think that I'm a slut, and that the twerking was completely inappropriate, especially around his family. Okay, now listen. Get that the twerking would have been inappropriate, but I was also having fun. Like I said, it was level 2 twerking, not level 10, which is what I usually do. So I decided to apologize, but it didn't work. He blocked me. The next day, I show up to his apartment and he wouldn't let me in, even though he was inside. I've gone to his house every day for a week, but he still doesn't let me in. Part of me just wants to beg, but the other part knows that I should stop, right? I feel mortified for my own behavior, but I think he's being a little harsh, right? What do you think I should do? I caught my dad cheating with my best friend and now he doesn't want me to tell my mom. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Do you think my dad is a narcissist? Now, my dad is very, very good looking. He's really fit and he's in his early 50s. He's that really annoying type of dad that anytime my girlfriends come over, he always comes downstairs, comes into the kitchen. Because he's always working out in the backyard, he takes off his shirt. A few weeks ago, I saw something that disturbed me. My best friend was over and I left her in the kitchen for a moment. When I came back into the kitchen, I saw her and my dad separate their hands really quickly. And I asked them what they were doing and they were acting so suspicious and nervous. When my dad left, I grilled my best friend and she swore nothing happened. Until a few days after that, I walk in on her sitting on his lap. At this point, they couldn't deny it. They said all they had done was hold hands and kiss. That's when my dad started begging me not to tell my mom. Can you imagine being put in that position? Hey, part 2 is up. Go watch. Caught my dad cheating with my best friend and he doesn't want me to tell my mom. Now you decide if my dad is a narcissist. Claim this is not my story time. It's sent me on Instagram. Once they confessed to me that they had been together, they swore that they had only held hands and kissed. I don't believe that for a single second. Best friend is the type of girl that falls in love every single week with a new guy and gets obsessed. My dad begged me not to tell my mom and here's why I agreed. My mom is an amazing, amazing mom and wife. She owns a Pilates studio and she pays for the bills. My dad lost his job and then got really into fitness and he thought that he was going to be able to work at a gym, but he never really went through with it. My mom told him it's okay, I'll hold it down. You go do what you want. And a few days later, my best friend comes over without even telling me. And I find them in the kitchen cooking and kissing. My dad just figures because I know they're gonna be affectionate in front of me. Instead of breaking it off, they were rubbing it in my face. I jumped in the car and drove to my mom's Pilates studio. Part 3 is up, go watch. A narcissist dad is having an affair with my best friend and making out in the kitchen. I made the decision to go and tell my mom. I drove over to her, picked her up, and on the way I told her everything. She actually didn't believe me. She had so much blind faith in my dad that she didn't think he was capable of doing that. When we walk in the house, they're sitting on the couch hand in hand. She ends up kicking both of them out. We filed for a divorce the next day. And my dad is begging to come back. Now he doesn't have anybody to pay his bills. I took the biggest, stinkiest poop on my best friend's wedding dress, and you'll never guess why. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My aunt died a couple months ago, so I went home for the funeral. This meant that my husband was going to be alone for about 2 weeks. Anytime I travel in preparation to leave my husband alone, I will go ahead and cook him gourmet meals for the 2 weeks that I'm gone. Make his breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then I put everything in the freezer. Even prepare his stupid smoothie packets so that he can just pull them out of the fridge and put them in the blender with some milk. Spent 2 days in the kitchen. I get on my flight, go see my family. And while I'm grieving the loss of my aunt, my husband keeps calling me to ask me about his stupid meals and how long he should microwave each thing. After the 2 weeks, I come home and my husband tells me that I need to step outside the house with him. He sits me down and lets me know that he wants a separation. Why? Because he fell in love with the next door neighbor, aka my best friend, the house we go to every Friday for dinner. And the most unbelievable part of all this, he tells me that he expects me to move out of our beautiful house that we built together in 2 days. Part 2 is so good, you gotta go watch it. I took a poo on my best friend's wedding dress. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. When my husband informed me that he was leaving me for my best friend who was our neighbor, and that he expected me to move out in 2 days, I was in actual shock. It's as if I saw my whole life flashing before my eyes. I had been married to this man for 20 years, had a child together who was now an adult, but the way in which he broke the news was so insensitive. How do you just bring somebody outside of your house and tell them, by the way, I'm in love with a neighbor and you gotta leave in 2 days? I tried to convince him if we could work things out, if we could go to couples therapy, but he put his foot down and said absolutely not. And of course I told him I was not going to leave our house. That house is like a museum, covered in artwork from all the places I've traveled to. And that house was literally built by us, by our own hands. So for 2 weeks, he and I lived in the same house, while the neighbor wouldn't even come out of her house to face me. Texted her and asked her if we could talk, and she said that she had nothing to say to me, and that her business was with my husband now. Can you believe it actually does get worse? I come home one day to find her cooking in our kitchen. Part 3 is up. I pooped on my best friend's wedding dress. It's not my story time, it's sending me on Instagram. I walk in to find my best friend, the woman that my husband has been cheating on me with, cooking in our house. Now the thing is, they didn't expect me to be home from work so soon. I just got a feeling that I really should have gone home, and I did. As soon as she sees me, she takes the apron off and leaves. She was too much of a coward to face me. I gotta remind you, at this point, she hadn't even spoken to me yet. I let her leave. When I told my husband that he couldn't bring her around like that, he told me that I was being unreasonable. Finally, after 2 weeks, he moved into her house. This meant that we were still neighbors. A month later, they announced their engagement. I don't know what came over me, but I went into their house and I saw the dress on the bed. I stood over it, I took a poo, and I left. By the way, he and I were still technically married, so they had a spiritual wedding. And he can't file for divorce because he knows I can take half of everything. Definitely know it's me who pooped on the dress, so they try to avoid me at all cost. And she ended up buying another wedding dress. On the day of the wedding dress, I ended up calling the cops to complain about the noise, and they came and stopped the wedding. What else should I do? My boyfriend's girl best friend told me that they hooked up. The real question is, why did she tell me that? And wait until I tell you what else she told me. Okay, let's call my boyfriend Nick. Nick and I have only been together for 3 months, but we worked together 2 years ago, and since then he's always texted me, he's always followed me on Instagram, watched all my stories, and at least once a month he would ask me out to go on a date, but I kept saying no. Because we worked together, I thought it would be completely inappropriate. Number 1, I love my job. Number 2, I don't shit where I sleep. We both work in marketing and we get paid pretty good money, so there is no way I'm gonna ever jeopardize that. And the thing is, I actually did start liking him. We had great conversations at work. Team and I usually would get dinner every Friday, and he and I would just gravitate towards each other every single time. I had just gotten out of a really toxic relationship. The last thing I wanted was to start dating a coworker. But he ended up moving to another company. He called me and said, hey, we don't work together anymore. Give me a chance. And I did. The first thing we did was go out to meet his group of best friends, including Bethany, his biggest fan, his girl best friend. Bethany hugged me so hard, I thought I was gonna suffocate. Part 2 is up. My boyfriend's girl best friend told me they hooked up on the very first night that I met her. When I met Bethany, she hugged me so hard I thought I was gonna suffocate. The very first thing she said to me was, oh my god, I didn't think you were gonna be that pretty. And she smacks my boyfriend in the back and says, why didn't you tell me she was gonna be so pretty? And the 5 of us left. My boyfriend had me meet all of his best friends at the bar that night. And let me just say this, there were 2 other girls who were so nice and kind to me. But Bethany was just on a whole other level of cringe. Before I know it, she monopolized me. She took me away from the group and took me to the bar. Without hesitation, she starts telling me about how they hooked up once, and only once, and that she thought it was important to tell me so that we could just get it out of the way. Then she looks me up and down and says, oh my gosh, you are so not his type. When I asked her what his type was, she started describing herself. Tall, skinny, blonde, fake tan. Well, I'm a short, curvy redhead. She immediately let me know that he probably wasn't even attracted to me really, and that he was probably more attracted to her. Next words out of her mouth were, oh my gosh, he is such a slut, by the way. You're gonna have to be careful. And she starts listing off all the things he did to his past girlfriends. Babe, part 3 is up. My boyfriend's girl best friend told me they hooked up the first night I met her. Real reason is, why is she telling me this? After she told me that I wasn't his type, she also blurted out that I needed to be careful with him because he had a tendency to be slutty. Now, in her peewee-sized brain, she thought she was giving me girl tips. You and I know that she was doing a really good job at exposing herself. She told me he cheated on his last girlfriend with his ex, and that I can tell he's cheating on me if he starts hiding his phone or if he starts ghosting me. Because I'm smart and she's not, I let her continue to word vomit. This is when she asked me if I was going to go on the next trip with them. Apparently the 5 of them go on an annual trip. She told me not to say anything because he would probably surprise me with airline tickets. On the way back to our table, she put the cherry on top. She said by the time they were 30, if they hadn't gotten married, they had both agreed to just be together. That they would buy a little cottage somewhere and just live out their lives. Later that night, I broke up with my boyfriend. I told him everything his best friend said. He begged me to forgive her because she was in love with him and that they all knew it. He told me I would never have to see her face again. He's waiting for me to give him another chance. Now, do you think I should give him another chance or just say bye? What would you do if you had this gym crush? He's really fit and handsome. He's even a little bit intimidating. From the moment you saw each other, he started making intense eye contact. He never breaks eye contact. Instead, he waits for you to do it. On a random Tuesday, he comes to you and asks you if you're doing anything that weekend. But then he realizes he hasn't even introduced himself. He quickly introduces himself and asks you for your name. You take a little mental note. He's charming on top of handsome. That's when he tells you that a really cool gastropub opened up near his house and that he would love to go on the weekend and take you with him. Do you say yes? You don't even have to think about it. You say yes immediately. He asks you for your address and you give it to him, and he even tells you the time he'll be there to pick you up. You exchange numbers and he texts you later that day saying he's excited, and he's a really good texter. He asks you interesting questions and he always says goodnight. It's finally Saturday and he texts you saying he's on his way. You're wearing a slinky silk dress, your makeup is fresh, and you smell like flowers, but you're a little bit nervous. And that's him outside waiting. Part 2 is what would you do if you had this gym crush? He asked you out on a date, and now he's waiting outside your door. And when you open, he gives you a kiss on the cheek and swiftly places a hibiscus flower in your hair. And when you ask him, how did you know it's my favorite flower? He says he saw your Instagram. He drives a G-Wagon, but you don't judge. He even opens the car door for you. Instantly, he's already made you feel welcome and taken care of. On the way to the restaurant, he hands you his phone and asks you to play music. You're stunned that he would even hand you his phone. On the car ride, he's asking you questions and making eye contact. Once you've arrived, he opens the car door for you. He's already made a reservation under his name. When you walk in, you notice it's a really fancy restaurant. You feel immediately underdressed, and this is when you notice everyone at the restaurant that works there knows him, and he's saying hi to everybody. You sit down at a beautiful table, and he begins to order one drink after another after another. With every drink, you feel your body tensing up. By the 3rd drink, he puts his hand on your lap, and with every drink, his hand inches closer to your waist. Do you ask him to stop? Part 3 is up. Imagine you have this gym crush at 30 minutes into your date. He's on his 3rd drink and his hand is already on your lap, inching its way closer to your hips. Do you ask him to stop? Out of the corner of your eye, you see somebody walking towards your table. Your gym crush date looks up and starts laughing. He gets up from the table and hugs this woman. He does not make the introduction. Instead, you pipe up and say hi. She looks at you and doesn't respond. She leaves the table and your date laughs. He says, "You'll never guess who that is. My ex." Oh, and she looked angry. While he orders more drinks, he tells you that they broke up last week, that she was cheating, and that she was a horrible bitch. Your hands begin to sweat. That's when you both see that his ex is about to leave the restaurant. He gives you a kiss and asks you to wait. 5 minutes pass by, he's still not back. Another 5 pass by. You get up and you go check, and that's when you realize his car is gone. Now you have to pay the $300 bill and get yourself home in an Uber. 3 hours later, he calls you and says he's outside your door. He's got flowers and he's apologetic, and he asks you to let him in. Wants to explain everything that happened. Now, are you letting him in, or do you close the door? This is so embarrassing, but I sharted my pants before I got on a flight. Get ready with me while I tell you one of the most embarrassing things that ever happened to me. I was in LA and I was invited to a brand event. It was amazing catering at the event, which I loved. Best part is they had really nice salads. Served myself 1 plate of salad, and then I followed up with a 2nd plate. Then finally I thought, you know what? I really just want a little bit more salad. I'm going to go ahead and get a 3rd plate. After the 3rd plate, I was good. I went home. The following day, I'm flying out to Miami. Show up to the American Airlines lounge, and I proceed to eat 3 plates of cottage cheese. Straight up cottage cheese because I need protein, right? Then I had un cafecito con leche. These are 2 things that I never eat for breakfast. 2.5 hours later, I'm walking to my gate. Feel a little fart coming on. I push, and it's, you know what, very small amount. I run to the bathroom, and thankfully nothing got on me. When I land in Miami, I had enough time to go home, shower, and get ready for this huddle event. Now tell me this, is this what I get for avoiding carbs, trying to eat protein, being healthy, and choosing the salad? Because what kind of punishment is that for trying to be good? This was me at the event. Could you tell that I had gone through all of that very morning? Who can relate? My new boyfriend's daughter kicked me out of their house because she said he'd ruin my life. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. God, I wish I had listened to her. Exactly 1 year ago, I met my now boyfriend, soon to be ex. He's a pilot, owns property, he also sells real estate. I was convinced this man was perfect. When we met, he told me that he had a 15-year-old daughter, that their relationship was perfect. The divorce he had with her mom was amicable. They got along, that there was no bad blood between them. I asked him point blank if there was going to be any problems with his daughter and his ex with me. He said no. But when he asked me to be his girlfriend, I said yes. When I tell you everything was good for 6 months, it was more than good. It was perfect. He was the perfect man in every single way possible. Would take me and his daughter out for lunch, and it was all good. He did have a good relationship. And I even met his ex, who was the nicest and best mother I had ever met. And you're probably wondering, when did things go bad? He asked me to move into his beautiful house, which meant that I would spend a lot more time with his daughter, and she would spend a couple of weeks out of every month with him. And that's when I started noticing she was scared of him. She would flinch whenever he would come near her. And then the unthinkable happened. Part 2 is up. That's when I realized my boyfriend's daughter was terrified of him. Now that I was living with them, her and I would have really nice conversations anytime we were together in the kitchen. Anytime he would walk into the room or come home, she would get really quiet. If he would close a door, she would flinch. This kept happening. Remember I said he's a pilot? Sometimes he would go away for 2 to 3 days. The next time we were alone, I asked her what was going on. And that's when she told me that I needed to leave. Now he would ruin my life if I stayed any longer. Then she started to cry. What she said was so unexpected and so scary. I just hugged her, waited for her to calm down, and then I asked her to tell me why she said that. She told me that he controlled her entire life. That he wouldn't let her do anything. That she couldn't have friends, couldn't go out anywhere by herself. That he would eventually start to do the same thing to me because he did the same thing to her mom. I asked my boyfriend why he broke up with his ex. He told me that they just grew apart. This is when she told me that he would keep tabs on her, follow her, made her quit her job, which by the way, she was a doctor. Also that he could make sure that she was always home with their daughter. And that the only reason the divorce was amicable was because she didn't want to have to fight him in court. Part 3 is up. My boyfriend's daughter kicked me out of their house because she said that he would ruin my life. Claim this is not my story time. It sent me on Instagram. After telling me how controlling and abusive he had been to her and her mom, he told me that I needed to leave right now because he was waiting to ask me to marry him, that once we were married, he would start to control my life like he did theirs. She then said that she could see that I wasn't believing her, so she pulls out her phone and calls her mom. She starts saying the same things, that at one point she even had to get a restraining order against him, that the only reason she lets her daughter spend so much time with him is because she's afraid that he might want custody. My relationship with him was so perfect. Just couldn't believe them. And guess what? I'm glad I didn't. I did end up leaving the house. When my boyfriend came back from his work trip, he told me that they had done this to every other girlfriend he tried to have. That it was all a lie. Girl, I almost believed them. All this drama made me feel so bad. I actually broke up with him. He gave me space for a month, but now he wants me to get back with him. I don't want to deal with his daughter and his ex. What should I do? My husband started abusing me because I wanted to breastfeed my baby. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It's sending me on Instagram. Don't know what the psychology behind this is. Some men are good until they don't need to be. In my case, my nightmare started after we had our first baby. We were already married for 3 years. Boyfriend and girlfriend, the relationship was fun and loving. When we got engaged, it became even more intense, and he began showing his love in different ways. And after we got married, it was just amazing. We had a really great relationship. Went into couples counseling, worked out our issues, and we just loved being with each other all the time. Then I got pregnant. At first, he was really happy. After the baby came, he began to reproach me for not being available to him all the time. He started saying things like, my gosh, you're not fun anymore. You don't want to go anywhere anymore. Don't wear the clothes that you used to wear. And I said, duh, I'm taking care of our baby. He started distancing himself from our newborn baby. Why? Because when I started breastfeeding, that he was uncomfortable with the idea of our baby boy latching onto me. That no other person should be touching me like that. I practically vomited in my mouth when he said this to me. It gets so much worse. Part 2 is up. My husband began abusing me after we had our baby because I wanted to breastfeed him. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. After he told me that he wasn't comfortable with our son latching onto me, that no other person should be touching me like that, we got into a massive fight. That was the first time he ever pushed me. It was an actual shock. First off, I had never seen this side to him. He was always jealous, but not controlling and possessive. Much less did he ever put hands on me. When he threw me down, I ended up bumping my shoulder so badly, I couldn't lift my arm for 2 weeks. Because I refused to not breastfeed the baby, anytime he would walk in and I was breastfeeding the baby, he would start a fight, cursing at me, yelling at me. Third time he did this, put the baby in his room, and then I decided to have it out with him. I told him that I thought he was being a child. That's when he slapped me for the first time. As soon as he did though, he was so apologetic, he started crying, and he even threw himself on the floor. Part of me almost felt bad for him until he said, I hope you don't do this again. When I got one of those hidden cameras in a bear, and I recorded the next 2 fights. He pushed me against a wall, pulled my hair, and all of this while I was holding our newborn. You're never gonna guess what he did when he found out. Part 3 is up. After my husband pushed me and pulled my hair while I was holding our newborn, I captured it all on camera. Camera he didn't know I hid. Now mind you, before this, I had already told my family what was happening, and when I told his parents, they flat out refused to believe me. Said their son would never touch me like that he loved our son, which was totally not true. He was jealous and envious of our little baby. So I sent the footage straight to his parents, and I went to their house, showed them on my computer, and they could no longer deny that their son was abusing me and their grandchild. My father-in-law got so angry, called my husband over to their house, and they helped me confront him. And my father-in-law punched him the minute he came in through the door. Mother-in-law started grabbing at his shirt and ripped it off, and they told him that he was no longer in their will. All of this happened in a matter of seconds, but my husband was so angry at me he tried to attack me. He ended up having to call the cops. My father-in-law held him down on the floor. Thank God for them. They made him move out of the house we were living in. Now he's living back home with them. Moved my parents into our home. They're helping me raise my baby. He has zero contact with us, and I'm getting full custody. He sends me threatening messages every day. Parents think we should move. Is that a bit much? My husband told me he's no longer attracted to me because I'm 7 months pregnant. This clip is on my story time. I was sending me on Instagram. He wants me to use Ozempic after pregnancy because I gained too much weight. 4 months into the pregnancy, I gained about 40 pounds. I've always been very fit, and one of the things we loved about each other was how fit and healthy we were. The pregnancy hit me really hard. I nap a lot during the day because I just can't stay awake, and because of that, I'm not really working out, and I am eating more. All of which our doctor said was completely normal. He started telling me things like, you need to go do Pilates, you need to keep going to the gym. I did not have energy at all. But I'm 7 months along, I'm bigger, and he hates it. You can tell by the way he looks at me because he doesn't touch me anymore. To give you some perspective, he was not able to keep his hands off of me before I got pregnant. He started insisting that I take Ozempic after the baby comes, and I told him that that's probably not the best option because I need to be nursing the baby. And then he finally confessed that he doesn't like how I look, that in order to have more children, I'm going to have to lose weight. He also said that he would never cheat on me, so I need to do right by him by taking the Ozempic. I told my family and my friends, and they think he's insane. I think he does have a point though. Should I do it or should I say no? My boyfriend called me stupid in front of his friends. Am I overreacting for wanting to kick him out of my apartment? I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I met him 4 weeks ago. We met at a friend's apartment. He love bombed me the entire night. 2 days later, he came to my place, and basically he's never left. He planned out this beautiful dinner and asked me to be his girlfriend formally, and I just melted. I mean, guys like that don't exist anymore. So my friend vouched for him, told me that he loves his family, he's a hard worker, basically everything I want in a guy. We were originally going to move into his place. It just wasn't big enough. We decided to host a dinner party for his and my friends. I made a beautiful roast chicken dinner, and I paid for all the groceries. He cleaned the entire kitchen before anybody got there. We were having such a good time till one of his friends, who's a huge history buff, starts asking all of us trivia about American history. Well, I didn't know the name of the first American president. Sure, was I embarrassed? Yeah. That's when my boyfriend says, well, geez, aren't you stupid? I was so affected by this, went to our room and started to cry. I haven't spoken to him in 3 days, and I am seriously considering asking him to leave. My friends think I'm overreacting. Isn't that a huge red flag though? Am I overreacting? What should I do? Am I the asshole for not inviting my sister and her stinky boyfriend to my wedding? Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Feels like my sister and I were raised by different parents. She doesn't believe in using chemicals. She doesn't like shampoo, doesn't like soap, doesn't like detergent. And of course, she found a guy that is just like her. Also doesn't like using shampoo, soap, or detergent. My sister and I growing up would fight about this. Her and I had to share a room. Her BO was so strong, it would sometimes wake me up. My parents would beg her to take showers. But once she moved out, she stopped showering. Instead, she would go swimming in the beach. Fast forward 15 years later, I'm engaged to the most beautiful man I've ever seen in my entire life. My parents and his parents love each other. It's a match made in heaven. Now, I do see my sister at least once a month, but like I said, she's stinky. And her man, even worse. I decided to tell my parents that I would not invite my sister to the wedding unless her and her boyfriend would have showers. My parents think I'm overreacting. I don't want them stinking up the wedding. Now, my sister agreed to taking a shower. Her boyfriend said he wouldn't. And now she says she can't go if he's not going. Can't they just shower? Story time about how I came out to my parents as a demigirl. If you don't know what a demigirl is, it means I'm non-binary, that I only partially think I'm a girl. Also, on some days, I feel more of a girl than a guy, and then other days, I feel more like a guy than a girl. So as you can see, it's all very complicated. My parents are not only religious, my dad is a pastor, my mom runs the Bible study sessions. Now, how did I turn out like this? Went to college in California for a year, and when I came back, I was just never the same. And they can tell. When I finally came out and told them exactly how I identify, they actually thought it was the end of the world. They had an entire mass dedicated to me, and they had every single person at this church come talk to me personally. Not only was I mortified, I felt completely outed by my own parents. The scrutiny was so intense, I actually retracted and told them that I believed I was a girl. But everything they did rewired me. What makes this even more complicated is that I'm not equally attracted to men or women. For men, I'm also attracted to women. How do I tell them that I'm dating someone who's bi-gender? Should I just keep this to myself? Or am I just complicating my own life? What should I do? Story time about how I proposed to my boyfriend and he said no. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Instead of me on Instagram. I made 2 mistakes when I started this relationship. I chased him for 3 months. And the worst part is he was dating one of my girlfriends. When they broke up, that's when I started chasing him. My friend stopped being friends with me when she found out that I was sending him DMs. But the thing is, he is my dream guy. He and I are actually both marine biologists. We both graduated from the same school. And when we were in school, I was always in love with him. Problem was that I was really shy, and when he hit on me back then, I thought he was just playing around. And then of course, he starts dating one of my friends, and that's when I really realized, hold on a second, I could be that girl. And why not me? And when he was finally ready, we started dating. We both worked so much that we barely ever saw each other. After a year, I knew I wanted to marry him. So I went ahead and proposed. His response was that he just didn't see me as wifey material, and that I was the girl he dated before finding a wife. I feel like such a loser. I spent $1,000 taking him to Vegas, nice hotel, nice dinner, only for him to say that to me. Why would he lead me on? Am I a loser for trying? Or should I just move on? Is it normal that my father still hits me even as an adult? Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Send me on Instagram. When I was a kid and I got in trouble, my dad would hit me. I always knew to expect it, so it wasn't a really big deal. But of course, I would do my best to stay out of trouble. Sometimes he would use a belt, and sometimes he would slap me across the face. The slapping was the worst part. From the ages of 10 to 12, I didn't really get hit because I never got in trouble. When I turned 14, things started getting rough. I wanted to date boys and my dad was not having it. So his form of punishment sometimes was even taking food away from me. This happened on 2 occasions when I was 14 and I almost ran away because of it. I know most of you are thinking that my mom should have stepped in, but my mom was pretty afraid of my dad too. Sometimes I feel like my parents have brainwashed me into thinking that what my dad is doing is fine. The sad part is that I'm now 20 and my dad still hits me from time to time. I do have to say my father has always been there for me. He's provided me with a great life and a good education. And it's not like he would just hit me out of nowhere. It was only when I got in trouble and for specific reasons. But I do think he needs to stop it because I'm 20 now. Here's where things get really messy. I just got engaged and my fiance hates my father. Follow for part 2. My husband butt dialed me while he was hooking up with our underage nanny. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. After giving birth to 3 kids in 4 years, I wanted a break. And I also wanted to get back to my job. Now, this is the worst part. My husband did not want to get a nanny. I thought we could do it. I insisted on getting a nanny. That's when the agency sent this amazing girl over. She was sweet, kind, funny. We had so many activities for the kids, and we liked her a lot. Now, after only 3 weeks, notice my husband and her were getting close. By close, I mean I would catch them laughing together in the kitchen, would offer her a ride home. One night, I headed off to bed early. That's when I get a phone call from my husband's phone. When I answer, I hear all kinds of noises. My husband telling our nanny that he loved her. This was all happening while I slept, and I knew exactly where they would be. I run over to the guest room, and there they were naked under the sheets. She was 1 day away from turning 18. No, my husband did not apologize, just a confession that he was in love with her and that he wanted her to move in, for me to move out. I managed to kick them both out of the house, and because the house is under my name, he had no choice. But now, what do I even do? My roommate confessed to me that she used my toothbrush to clean the toilet. That actually happened. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My roommate and I actually met babysitting for the same family. And when I tell you, this girl was the sweetest girl you could ever think of. When I got that job, I was earning more money and all I wanted was to move into a nice apartment. I just wanted a nice, clean apartment, something without roaches, just something that felt comfortable and safe. So I found an apartment, but not just any apartment. I found the apartment, the prettiest apartment with really nice lighting. So I asked my coworker if she was looking for a roommate and if she'd be interested in moving in with me. At the time, my boyfriend, who is now my husband, he and I were not ready to move in, so I just knew I needed to get a roommate. Now, her situation was that she had just broken up with her boyfriend. She found him cheating, and really, I didn't stop to think how my happy relationship might affect her, seeing as how she just got her heart broken. About a month after moving in together, everything was still good. My boyfriend hated her. He did not think that she was somebody that I could trust in or someone that I could confide in because he could have sworn that he saw her making faces while I spoke. Until one day my boyfriend says to me, hey, I would really like to come over and cook you dinner. Maybe we can have like a little date night at your place. So I said to her, hey, my boyfriend wants to come over. Do you mind taking a couple of hours just so that we could have a bit of privacy? And what proceeded after that, as you can imagine, was a very awkward conversation of her saying, if you guys want to just get it on in your bedroom, I'm not going to come in. Do whatever you want. My boyfriend comes over. He makes us the most delicious dinner. We sit down to eat and she sits down in the same living room we're in having dinner and she starts watching a movie when she has a TV in her own room. Now my boyfriend asked her to turn down the volume and she said, no, this is a communal space. I think I can watch TV as loud as I want. And he grabs the remote and lowers the volume. She storms out, goes to her room and locks the door. The next day she wakes up with tears in her eyes and she asks me why my boyfriend and I bullied her. Every other word out of her mouth was an accusation that was a lie. She said that my boyfriend and I went to her door and decided to listen in on her the entire night. I obviously said to her that we did not do any of those things, and she said that she must have been dreaming because of how traumatized she was from the experience. And that's when she said, well, you better not ever use your toothbrush because I've been using it every day to clean the toilet. And the next day, I had her stuff packed up and I moved her out. After I kicked her out, she started asking me for 3 months worth of rent because of the trauma that she endured living with me. Thank you, Anonymous, for sending me your story. Drop your advice in the comments. And if you want to send me your own story time so that you can get some genuine advice, send me a DM. Bye! My sister let me think my boyfriend cheated on me for 5 years. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. God blessed me with the best boyfriend. We were high school best friends. We even decided to go to the same college. That's when our relationship went from platonic to romantic. He formally asked me to be his girlfriend, and when I told my family, they were obviously very happy. He told me he wanted to propose once we graduated from college, and right before graduation, sister calls me one day and tells me that I need to go home immediately. Drive an hour and a half back to my parents' house. That's when she told me she saw my boyfriend kissing another girl. She gave me so many details. She was on the verge of tears, and I believed her. I was 2 weeks away from graduation and from getting engaged. I thanked my sister. When I confronted my boyfriend, he completely denied it. My sister told me she saw him at a coffee shop kissing a girl. He told me he'd never even been there. He gave me his phone and his laptop to check, but it was my sister. I believed her and I broke up with him. For a few weeks, he kept begging me to get back with him. He even showed me the engagement ring that he was going to give me after graduation. But every time I asked my sister about it, she was adamant. 5 years later, my sister confesses that it was all a lie. She was jealous of my relationship. Part 2 is up. My sister let me think my boyfriend cheated on me for 5 years. This is not my story time. That's when my sister called me and told me that she had been lying to me for 5 years. That's when she confessed. She was so jealous of my relationship with my boyfriend, she didn't think it was fair for me to be happy. She had gone through an abusive relationship. She even had to get a restraining order. So her experience of love was different to mine. I was in a healthy relationship with my best friend. She also said that she didn't think I would go through the breakup. But it was my sister telling me this. How could I not believe her? She apologized and told me that I should go try to get him back. And that's exactly what I did. The only problem was my ex was now engaged to someone else. And when I reached out to him through text, he called me right away. He told me that he did have feelings for me, but that he didn't think it was fair that 5 years later I was hitting him up. And I agreed. He told me that he was getting married in 2 months. I had to cut my sister off and my parents don't agree with that, but I just cannot even look at her face. Every single time I think about this, I get sick to my stomach and I start to cry. Although my ex and I have stayed in contact and we pretty much text every day. I'm starting to feel like it's not fair for his fiance, but it's also not fair for me. I feel like this is totally wrong. What should I do? My best friend only keeps me around because I'm fat. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Was sent to me on Instagram. I've always been the chunky, pudgy, overweight, chubby girl in the group. Now, our friend group consisted of 4 girls in high school. Once we graduated college, 3 of us stuck together while the other one was kind of out. Then the other 2 girls in the group got boyfriends, and I was on my own. Eventually, they stopped reaching out to me and it was like I didn't even exist. Now, let me be very clear about something. I have accepted that I'm the chunky girl of the group. I never get jealous. I do not envy them. They are all very attractive and skinny, but I just don't care about that. I'm happy that they love their bodies, but I feel okay in mine. But of course, I knew that I needed to get healthier, so I signed up to the gym. Around this time, one of my girlfriends broke up with her boyfriend and she started coming around again. And I accepted her friendship again, but I told her that it hurt my feelings that she completely ignored me once she got a boyfriend. She promised that she would never do it again, and we started going to the gym together. She's the one that always gets hits on. The guys compliment her. It's like I don't even exist. In fact, they ask me for her number when she doesn't want to give it to them. You see where this is going? Decided to get dressed up all cute and we went to a bar together. Babe, part 2 is up. You gotta go watch. My best friend only keeps me around because I'm fat and I make her look good. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. That's when she invited me to go to our favorite bar. As usual, she always invites me to go to her place to get ready. Nope, she can never come to mine. So I lugged all my clothes and makeup all the way to her place. And as we're getting ready, she starts suggesting that I change my outfit. I felt really cute in my outfit. It was a sleek black blazer with the matching bottoms, tight black tank top, and gold jewelry. But as soon as she saw my outfit, she said I looked way too formal. And then she spent the next 30 minutes trying to convince me to change and put on one of her tight-ass dresses. I asked her if she was in her right mind, considering her dress wouldn't even fit my right thigh. Then she said that I needed to calm down and that we should just go get drinks. And then she ended up copying my outfit. She wore a gray blazer with skinny jeans. When we get to the bar, I started having fun right away. I saw one of my besties from work, and her and I get along so well. This is when I noticed my bestie was really quiet. But as usual, she's only waiting for a guy to come hit on her. Finally, some random dude comes up to her and asks her if she wants a drink. She's like, "Oh my god, thank you so much." Then she looks at me and says, "It's always good to have you around, you know?" Part 3 is up. My bestie only keeps me around because I'm fat and I make her look good. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Let's send me on Instagram. That's when she tells me that it's always good having me around, you know? And I did not know what she meant at the time. When the random guy shows up with her drink, and then she does the thing that she always does. She flirts with these guys, puts her hand on their shoulder, tends to laugh at their stupid nasty ass jokes, in the hopes of getting a second drink. Me, on the other hand, was dancing and having fun with my coworker. That's when the random guy says, "Hey you need to tell your best friend to give me her phone number." And I responded, "I mean, she will if she thinks you're hot." That's when my best friend whispers into this guy's ear, but loud enough for me to hear, "Oh, she's just upset because I'm the one that gets hit on and not her. You know, because she's a little bit chubby." It didn't even make me angry. I already knew she thought this, but it stung. Like the fatty I am, I invited my coworker to a nice dinner. I left my bestie at the bar without a car. I also sent her a text saying, "I heard what you said about me to the guy, and if that's what you really think about me, then this is not a friendship I need to be pursuing." The next morning, I had about 20 missed calls from her, and so I blocked her. If she really wanted to, she could have come to my house. Do you think I did the right thing? Self-care sister out. I was 13 years old. I was almost kidnapped by a cab driver. Little story time. I started modeling when I was 8 years old. Did some modeling for clothes and hair commercials. When I was 13, my mom signed me up to a new agency. So usually castings were held at the agency. So my mom went to drop me off for a casting. She was gonna go run some errands and then she would come right back. This is when the owner of the agency asked me if I could get my mom to give me a ride to my casting. I said to her my mom just left. At the time, I didn't have a cell phone. This woman put money in my 13-year-old hand and told me to get a cab. And I did. And the worst part is, it was for a beer commercial. She told me to tell him that I was 25. Clearly looked 13. I took a cab to the casting. Told the casting director I was 25, and then when I went back downstairs, I got another cab. As soon as I got into the cab, the driver started asking me tons of questions. What was my name? How old was I? I wasn't answering any of them. This is when he started getting angry. When he was supposed to make a turn, he did not and kept going straight. Mind you, the doors were not locked at this time. When I told him that he didn't turn when he should have, he locked the doors. As soon as he came to a stop, I unlocked the door and jumped out of the car. To this day, I believe that if I hadn't gotten out, something terrible would have happened. When my mom came to pick me up, I told her. She cursed out the agent and we left. Story time about how I found out I was born from incest. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It's sending me on Instagram. Growing up, I always wondered why we didn't have a family. I mean, I had both my parents, but we never visited my grandparents, cousins, parents until I turned 15. That's when I started getting curious and I started asking questions. Finally, I asked my parents about my grandparents. I remember meeting them when I was a kid. That's when my dad got really upset. He told me to stop asking questions because we didn't need family. I immediately went onto Facebook. It wasn't hard to find my aunt, my mom's sister. I messaged her and she told me something disturbing. She said my mom and dad were related. They were half brother and sister. Part 2 is up. Time about how I found out I was born out of incest. Disclaimer, is not my story time. It's sending me on Instagram. When my aunt told me the disturbing truth. My mom and dad were half brother and sister. According to my aunt, when they were in high school, they always spent time together. Everyone just thought they were best friends. But apparently, my aunt walked in on them making out one day. When she told her parents, my grandparents, they obviously freaked out and tried to separate them. That's when they tried to send my dad to a military school. 1 week before they sent him, my mom and dad decided to run away together. They finally ran away and never spoke to their family again until I was born. My grandmother begged them to get rid of me. My parents kept me. Part 3 is up. Story time about how I found out I was born out of incest. Disclaimer, is not my story time. It's on Instagram. After I was born, my grandmother begged my mom to give me up for adoption. My parents were both 18 when they had me. Not only were they jobless, they were also half brother and sister. Since my parents had run away from home, my grandparents didn't want to help them financially. Luckily, my parents started their own business and they are successful today. Finding out that my parents are half brother and sister, I understand our family history and why we were never close to our family. Finally confronted my parents and they denied everything. I decided I'd do the same thing they did. I ran away for 3 nights, hid in my bestie's basement. Finally, my parents came over and told me the entire truth. My parents do love me, but they keep me away from my family. What should I do? Should I forgive them? My boyfriend broke up with me after he saw me naked for the first time. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. We met in Miami during spring break. He was with a group of friends, and as soon as he saw me at a restaurant, he approached me and would not leave me alone. The next 3 hours, he chased me around this bar, and every time I said I was not interested, he would say something like, "I noticed you're not drinking and I'm not drinking. We should go for a walk." And this was actually true. My friend group was getting absolutely smashed. His friend group was so drunk they could barely walk. It was obvious he and I were the only sober ones, and on the 3rd time he asked me to go for a walk, I said yeah. That's when we realized we had a lot in common. We were both teetotal, we were both studying medicine, and we lived 30 minutes away from each other. It was almost meant to be. We went out on 3 dates before he asked me to be his girlfriend. And yes, he asked me the old-fashioned way. I told him that nothing sexy was going to happen with us until I felt absolutely 100% comfortable. After 7 more dates, he asked me if I wanted to go to his place. He had prepared a beautiful dinner, and I was ready. I started to take off my clothes, but the expression on his face was not what I was expecting. And when I asked him what was wrong, he told me, "Go to part 2. My boyfriend broke up with me after seeing me naked for the first time. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. When I started taking my clothes off, he looked happy. But after I took off my shirt, his expression went from happy to no expression. I took off my pants, and mind you, I had the sexiest lingerie on. His face was blank. I clocked it immediately and asked him what was wrong. This is when he says, "Well, I wasn't expecting you to look like that." It took me 3 seconds to put my clothes back on. I asked him, "What did you expect?" He said that the kind of clothes I wore made me look like I was smaller. And he said, quote, "To be honest with you, I'm really attracted to girls who are smaller than me. You've got muscles." I said, "Duh, I work out." It's like somebody flipped the switch inside of him. He was no longer attracted to me. I asked him if he could look past that, and he said no, because he probably wouldn't be able to get turned on by me. He apologized and asked me to leave. Went straight to my best friend's house, and she said, "You know, he could have lied to you and slept with you and then ghosted you. At least he was honest." But even then, not only am I humiliated, I'm so hurt. It made me feel like I wasn't woman enough. What should I do? My boyfriend broke up with me after he saw me naked for the first time. Part 3. After he broke up with me and left my apartment, I remembered that he let me borrow his iPad and I totally forgot about it. So the very next day, I decided to go on his search history. You're gonna fall off your chair when I tell you what I found. He was looking up male corn after he told me that I looked too muscular for him to want to be with me. And the things that he was looking at, these were fetishes I hadn't even heard of. But the common denominator was all of the men were female passing. These were all very feminine looking men. You confused yet? Because I am. I sent him screenshots. 20 minutes later, he was knocking on my door. That's when he confessed he broke up with me not even because of how I looked, but only because I was a woman. That he's been attracted to femme men all his life, but that his parents would never accept that. He said up until now I had been the only woman that had gotten his attention, but when he saw me naked, he just couldn't go through with it. And he couldn't think of anything else better than to tell me that I was just too muscular. I kicked him out of my apartment and I outed him with his parents. Later, I found out that his dad beat the poop out of him. Now I feel guilty. What the heck is my life?